This is not a workout, it's a nervous system warm-up. We're not here to push limits, chase intensity, or measure performance. We're here to gently signal safety to the body and clarity to the mind. When the nervous system feels safe, energy becomes available naturally, forcing without hype and without pressure. Most of us arrive carrying invisible tension, shoulders lifted, jaw tight, breathing shallow. A traditional workout often ignores this and asks for output first. A nervous system warm-up does the opposite. It starts by settling the internal noise because the body doesn't respond well to commands when it feels rushed or threatened. Small, intentional movements communicate something important to the brain. Nothing bad is about to happen. Gentle motion, steady rhythm, relaxed breathing activate the parts of the nervous system responsible for calm focus and social engagement. This is why even light movement can feel surprisingly energizing. It's not creating energy, it's unlocking it. When we move this way, coordination improves, mood lifts, and attention stabilizes. The body shifts out of survival mode and into participation mode. You may notice warmth, alertness, or a subtle sense of ease. That's your system recalibrating, not burning calories, restoring balance so you can be fully present for what comes next. Movement helps the mind arrive in the present because the mind naturally follows the body's signals. When the body is still but the nervous system is activated, the mind tends to drift into memories, worries, planning, or distraction. Gentle movement gives the brain real-time sensory input to focus on pressure, balance, rhythm, and breath. These signals anchor attention to what is happening right now. When you move, especially in a slow and intentional way, the body starts sending feedback through muscles and joints that says, "We are here." This reduces mental noise without needing effort or control. Instead of trying to think your way into presence, sensation do the work for you. The mind doesn't need instructions. It simply synchronizes with the body. Even simple actions like shaking your hands, shifting your weight, or taking a few steps can interrupt overthinking. Movement occupies the same mental bandwidth that worry and rumination use. As that space fills with physical sensation, awareness naturally returns to the moment. Presence becomes a byproduct of motion, not a goal you have to chase. Awareness comes before effort because the body and mind need to understand what is happening before they can respond effectively. When effort is applied without awareness, it often turns into tension, overexertion, or resistance. You may push harder, but the system isn't coordinated, so the energy leaks into stress instead of purposeful action. Awareness means noticing sensations, posture, and internal state without trying to change them. This simple noticing creates alignment. The nervous system gets information first, which allows it to choose the appropriate level of activation. Without this step, effort is based on assumption rather than reality. Disconnect is what leads to burnout or frustration. When awareness leads, effort becomes efficient. Muscles engage more smoothly. Breathing supports movement instead of fighting it, and attention stays grounded. You're no longer forcing the body to comply, you're working with it. Effort then feels cleaner and more sustainable because it's guided by understanding rather than urgency. Small movements send safety signals to the brain because the nervous system interprets gentle, controlled motion as a sign that the environment is not threatening. When movements are slow and intentional, the brain receives consistent feedback that the body is not in danger and does not need to prepare for fight, flight, or freeze. This allows stress responses to soften without conscious effort. Large or sudden actions can sometimes increase alertness. Small movements do the opposite. They downshift the system. Subtle actions like shaking the hands, rolling the shoulders, or shifting weight from one foot to the other stimulate sensory pathways that reassure the brain. These signals say, I have control, I am oriented, and I am safe enough to explore. As the brain receives these cues, muscle tension decreases and breathing naturally deepens. Energy that was locked into guarding or bracing becomes available again. This is why small movements often feel surprisingly calming and grounding, even though they require very little physical effort. Regulates energy faster than force because breathing is directly connected to the nervous system, while force relies on muscle output and willpower. When you try to create energy through effort alone, the body often responds with tension and fatigue. Breath, on the other hand, communicates instantly with the systems that control arousal. Focus and emotional state, slow, steady breathing activates pathways that calm excessive activation, while slightly quicker breaths can gently raise alertness. This adjustment happens within seconds without strain. The body doesn't need to be pushed, it needs to be guided. Breath acts like a dial rather than a switch, allowing energy to be increased or decreased smoothly. Because breathing is always present, it becomes the most efficient way to influence internal state. Single intentional breath can interrupt stress, stabilize attention, and create readiness for movement. Instead of overpowering the body, breath brings the system into balance, making energy feel available rather than forced. Rhythm creates emotional stability because the nervous system is designed to respond to predictable patterns. When movement, sound, or breath follows a steady rhythm, the brain can anticipate what comes next, and anticipation reduces uncertainty. Uncertainty means less emotional reactivity. The system settles not because anything is fixed, but because it becomes familiar. Rhythmic actions like walking, gentle bouncing, clapping, or breathing at a consistent pace provide a sense of continuity. This continuity helps emotions organize themselves. Instead of feeling scattered or overwhelmed, the internal state begins to synchronize with the external pattern. The body and mind move in the same direction at the same speed. Over time, rhythm acts like a stabilizing frame. Even when emotions fluctuate, the underlying pattern remains steady, giving the nervous system something reliable to hold onto. This is why rhythm is so effective in calming anxiety, improving focus, and supporting a grounded emotional experience without needing to analyze or suppress what is being felt. Effort does not require tension because true effort comes from coordination and engagement, not from gripping, tightening, or forcing the body. Many people equate working hard with bracing every muscle, clenching the jaw, or holding their breath. These patterns create resistance instead of effective action. Effort can be precise, intentional, and controlled without triggering stress responses in the nervous system. When movement is guided by awareness rather than strain, muscles activate efficiently, breathing remains natural, and energy flows smoothly. The nervous system recognizes this kind of effort as safe and sustainable. You can engage fully in an activity, push toward a goal, generate power without the body signaling danger or tightening in anticipation. This approach allows action to be continuous and less draining. The mind experiences clarity and the body experiences ease. The work accomplished remains the same or even better because the system is aligned rather than locked. Effort becomes a matter of intelligent engagement rather than brute force. Listening to your body is part of participation because movement is not just mechanical, it is a conversation between your mind and your nervous system. When you pay attention to what your body feels, its tension, its comfort, its limits, you are actively engaging in the process rather than merely performing it. Participation is not about following instructions blindly or trying to achieve a particular outcome. It is about responding to the signals your body is giving you in real time by noticing how your muscles engage, how your joints move, how your breath adjusts. You allow the body to guide the motion instead of forcing it. This kind of awareness creates a feedback loop. The more you listen, the more precise and effortless your movement becomes. Your nervous system registers this attunement as safety, and the mind naturally aligns with the body's rhythms. Participation emerges not from pushing harder, from tuning in and moving in harmony with yourself. Imperfect movement reduces performance anxiety because it removes the pressure to get it right and shifts the focus from outcome to experience. When you allow yourself to move in a way that is natural, unpolished, or even awkward, the nervous system recognizes that no threat is present. The body doesn't have to brace, overcorrect, or prepare for judgment, and the mind relaxes as a result. Perfection often creates tension and hyper-awareness, which blocks fluidity and increases stress. By embracing imperfection, you create space for exploration and adaptability. Movements become playful rather than prescriptive, and mistakes are no longer signs of failure, but part of the process. This approach encourages curiosity and presence, allowing attention to settle on sensation, rhythm, and engagement instead of comparison or evaluation. As a result, even simple or small actions feel lighter, more enjoyable, and less intimidating. The nervous system can participate fully without defensive guarding. Performance anxiety naturally diminishes when the body and mind are given permission to be imperfect. Lowers mental resistance because it shifts the brain out of rigid patterns of control and expectation. When the mind is focused on enjoyment, curiosity, or exploration, it stops arguing with the experience and starts engaging with it. Activates pathways in the nervous system associated with reward, safety, and creativity, which naturally reduce tension and mental friction. When movement or action is framed as playful rather than obligatory, the body responds differently. Muscles relax, breathing becomes easier, and attention becomes more flexible. Even small, lighthearted gestures, bouncing, stretching, or improvising emotion signal to the brain that there is no danger, no evaluation, and no need for perfection. Play creates a context in which participation feels voluntary and spontaneous, which allows energy to flow without resistance. The mind stops resisting because it is enjoying the experience rather than trying to control or judge it, and the nervous system can move in alignment with both intention and curiosity. Activation is different from stress because it engages the body and mind without triggering the defensive responses that accompany threat. Activation is a state of readiness, alertness, and energy that is purposeful and manageable, whereas stress often involves tension, constriction, and a sense of overwhelm. In activation, the nervous system is mobilized in a way that supports action and attention. It remains flexible and responsive rather than reactive. The body can be fully active, breathing faster, the heart rate slightly elevated, muscles engaged, without creating cortisol spikes or the tightness associated with stress. Activation can come from movement, focus, even playful engagement, and it communicates to the brain that the energy being produced is safe and directed. Stress, on the other hand, uncertainty or danger, prompting defensive strategies that can drain energy and impair coordination. When we understand this distinction, we can use activation intentionally to prepare the body for effort or experience, allowing energy to circulate efficiently while avoiding the harmful effects of stress. Activation becomes a tool, a way to prime the system rather than a source of tension or anxiety. Social movement increases motivation because humans are inherently responsive to the presence and behavior of others. When we move together, our nervous systems pick up subtle cues from those around us, rhythm, energy, pace, and naturally synchronize. This synchronization creates a sense of connection and belonging, which amplifies engagement and makes effort feel more compelling. Observing others move can serve as a model, reducing hesitation and uncertainty about how to act. It also provides implicit encouragement. When someone else is participating, it signals safety and shared intention, which lowers the barriers that often prevent action. Movement in a social context activates reward pathways in the brain, making participation inherently satisfying and reinforcing. Even simple gestures like clapping, stepping in time, or mirroring someone else's motion can elevate drive and persistence. The motivation arises not from external pressure, but from alignment with the group and the subtle, continuous feedback that the nervous system receives when it perceives shared movement and purpose. Gentle motion improves emotional openness because it signals to the nervous system that the body is safe and supported, which allows emotions to flow without being blocked by tension or defensiveness. When movements are soft, controlled, and deliberate, they reduce the subconscious need to brace or protect, creating a physiological environment where feelings can emerge naturally. Slow stretches, rocking, or flowing gestures provide sensory feedback that communicates safety to the brain. This sensory input helps quiet hypervigilance and overthinking, which often constrict emotional expression. As the body relaxes into motion, the mind mirrors that openness, becoming more receptive to experiences, sensations, and interpersonal connection. The effect is cumulative. Gentle motion continues, subtle emotional barriers begin to dissolve, and people notice themselves responding more fully, spontaneously, and authentically. The body's readiness to move safely creates a container in which the mind can explore, process, express emotions without judgment or suppression. Warm-ups are psychological, not just physical, because they prepare the mind for engagement in the same way they prepare the body for movement. The initial moments of a warm-up are not only about loosening muscles or increasing heart rate, they are about creating mental readiness, focus, and a sense of presence. When the mind is calm, aware, and attuned to the body, physical activity becomes more coordinated, efficient, and enjoyable. During a warm-up, subtle movements, breath awareness, rhythm all send signals to the brain that help regulate the nervous system. These signals reduce uncertainty and preemptively ease stress responses, creating a mental state that can support sustained effort and participation. The psychological component shapes how the body responds. Without it, even the most physically effective exercises may feel awkward, forced, or tiring. A proper warm-up aligns attention, intention, and sensation. It primes not just muscles, but also perception, focus, and emotional state, ensuring that subsequent activity is approached with clarity, confidence, and readiness rather than reactive tension or hesitation. Presence is created, not forced, because it arises naturally when the mind and body are aligned and attentive to what is happening in the moment. To force presence through willpower or strict control often leads to tension, distraction, or self-judgment. Pull attention away rather than anchor it. Instead, presence emerges when the body is moving, breathing, sensing in a way that the nervous system recognizes as safe and engaged. When attention is gently directed toward sensation, rhythm, and alignment, the mind begins to follow the body's cues. Awareness of posture, breath, and subtle movements invites focus without pressure. Presence is cultivated through noticing rather than controlling, through participation rather than perfection, through allowing the experience to unfold rather than demanding a specific outcome. Over time, this approach trains the nervous system to be responsive rather than reactive, making presence a natural byproduct of engagement. It becomes a state that the body and mind inhabit together, accessible whenever attention is returned to the current moment rather than something imposed from the outside. Stillness after movement amplifies awareness because it allows the nervous system to register the effects of activity without distraction. When the body stops moving, the sensations generated by prior motion, muscle engagement, shifts in balance, and changes in breath become more noticeable. The contrast between activity and stillness highlights subtle cues that often go unnoticed during continuous motion. Pausing after movement gives the mind a moment to catch up with the body. It creates space for reflection on how energy is flowing, posture has shifted, and how the breath has adjusted. This moment of quiet intensifies sensory perception and deepens connection to internal states, making subsequent movement more intentional and informed. Stillness acts as a feedback mechanism. It consolidates awareness, allowing the nervous system to integrate what has been activated and to tune readiness for the next action. By alternating motion and stillness, the body and mind learn to perceive nuance, regulate arousal, and engage more fully with each subsequent movement. Energy follows engagement, not pressure, because when the nervous system is invited to participate willingly, it mobilizes resources efficiently and naturally. Pressure, whether internal or external, often triggers tension, resistance, and defensive responses, which block the smooth flow of energy. Engagement, on the other hand, arises from curiosity, attention, and intentional involvement, which the body interprets as safe and purposeful. When you focus on the act itself, feeling the muscles, sensing the breath, noticing the rhythm, energy emerges as a byproduct of connection rather than coercion. The mind and body align because participation is voluntary. A nervous system does not perceive threat or demand. This allows action to feel lighter, more coordinated, and sustainable, even when effort is significant. Contrast between engagement and pressure demonstrates that motivation and vitality are not generated through force or obligation. They arise when attention is directed, the body is present, and the nervous system is willing to respond. Energy becomes a natural consequence of alignment, awareness, and active participation. Choice increases compliance and comfort because when the nervous system perceives that it has options, it no longer feels coerced or threatened. Autonomy signals safety, and safety allows participation without resistance. When people are given the opportunity to adjust movement, pace, intensity, or style according to their own preferences, they are more likely to engage fully and sustain that engagement over time. Even small choices, like whether to lift the arms higher, step lightly or firmly, or move faster or slower, communicate to the brain that the body's needs are being respected. This reduces defensive tension and allows the nervous system to operate in a state of openness rather than guarding. Compliance is no longer about obligation. It becomes a natural alignment with intention because the system is willing rather than forced. Comfort emerges alongside compliance because the body can signal boundaries and adjust as needed. When choice is integrated into movement or activity, participation feels safe, fluid, and personally tailored, making engagement effortless and more deeply connected to both body and mind. Fun makes habits sustainable because it transforms participation from a task into an experience the nervous system wants to repeat. When activity is enjoyable, the brain releases neurochemicals that reinforce engagement, creating positive associations that make returning to the behavior effortless over time. Enjoyment reduces resistance and diminishes the internal friction that often sabotages consistency, allowing the body and mind to anticipate repetition with curiosity rather than obligation. The quality of the experience matters more than intensity or duration. Playful, lighthearted actions generate intrinsic motivation, which strengthens the likelihood that the habit will persist even in the absence of external rewards or pressure. Also allows flexibility and adaptability within the behavior, so the nervous system remains responsive rather than rigid, which prevents burnout. Over time, the brain learns to link movement, practice, or engagement with pleasure, making the habit self-reinforcing. The more enjoyment is embedded in the activity, the more naturally it becomes a part of daily life, supported by both psychological and physiological reinforcement rather than willpower alone. Movement reconnects mind and body because it creates a continuous loop of sensory feedback that the brain can interpret and respond to. When the body is in motion, muscles, joints, and the vestibular system send constant signals to the nervous system, providing real-time information about position, tension, balance, and effort. The mind, in turn, integrates these signals, aligning attention and intention with physical action. In periods of stillness or disconnection, the brain can become focused on thoughts, worries, or external demands, while the body remains underutilized or tense. Movement bridges that gap, offering a direct experiential pathway for awareness to flow from sensation to cognition. Even simple gestures like stepping, stretching, or shifting weight anchor the mind in the body and reduce the separation between thought and physical presence. As this loop strengthens, perception becomes more accurate, coordination improves, and the nervous system gains a sense of coherence. Mind and body begin to operate as a unified system rather than as separate entities, allowing energy, focus, and awareness to circulate more efficiently throughout both. Safety allows energy to emerge because the nervous system only releases its full potential when it perceives that threat is minimal or absent. When the body feels secure, there is no need for constant vigilance, bracing, or defensive tension, and the physiological systems that support movement, focus, and alertness can operate freely. In a state of perceived danger, energy is diverted toward protective mechanisms, limiting flow and responsiveness. When safety is established through posture, breath, movement, or environmental cues, the nervous system can allocate resources to purposeful action rather than survival. Muscles engage smoothly, breathing supports activity rather than constriction, and attention can expand instead of narrowing. This internal permission allows energy to be accessed effortlessly, often in ways that feel effortless or natural, rather than forced. The emergence of energy in a safe state is self-reinforcing. As the system experiences ease, confidence grows, coordination improves, and the body-mind loop strengthens. Energy flows because the conditions for engagement are optimal. The nervous system no longer has to protect or restrict itself. Awareness changes physiology because the act of noticing sensations, posture, breath, and movement sends signals to the nervous system that influence how the body functions. When attention is directed inward, shifts occur, heart rate can slow or stabilize, muscle tension can release, and breathing patterns can deepen and become more regular. The nervous system responds not just to external stimuli, but to the quality of consciousness brought to those stimuli. Awareness itself can modulate physiological state. By observing without judgment, the mind creates a feedback loop that regulates autonomic responses. Even small adjustments in focus, such as noticing the alignment of the spine, the rhythm of steps, or the expansion of the chest with each breath, can cascade into broader systemic changes. Circulation, nerve activation, energy distribution adjust in response to the body being consciously acknowledged. As awareness becomes consistent, these physiological changes become more pronounced and reliable. The body begins to operate in a state of readiness and efficiency, not because effort or force is applied, but because conscious attention guides and informs the system, creating coherence between mind and body. An alert can coexist, expend it, and do not add the conclusions or subheadings in it. Calm and alert can coexist because the nervous system is capable of maintaining a state of relaxed readiness. The body is responsive without being tense, and the mind is focused without being overstimulated. Calmness reduces unnecessary muscle tension, slows reactive impulses, and stabilizes breathing, while alertness heightens awareness, coordination, and the ability to respond effectively to changes in the environment. These states are not mutually exclusive. They interact synergistically. When calmness provides a foundation, alertness becomes more precise and sustainable. Mind can observe details, anticipate movement, and engage in complex tasks without being pulled into stress or distraction. Likewise, the body can move efficiently, generate energy when needed, and recover quickly because it is not locked into protective rigidity. Through practice and intentional engagement, this balance becomes accessible. The nervous system learns to remain both composed and ready, allowing attention, energy, and responsiveness to coexist. This creates a state where performance, awareness, and emotional stability are enhanced simultaneously, and action arises from presence rather than compulsion or tension. The body leads, the mind follows, because movement provides immediate sensory feedback that the brain interprets and integrates, shaping perception, focus, and decision-making. When the body initiates motion, whether through posture, gesture, or rhythm, nervous system receives signals about balance, tension, and spatial orientation that guide mental processes. The mind reacts to these cues, adjusting attention, expectation, and awareness in real time by allowing the body to set the pace and pattern. Mind becomes more grounded and responsive rather than reactive or forced. Even subtle movements like shifting weight, breathing deeply, extending an arm, send information that organizes cognition and emotional state. The physical experience creates a template for thought, attention, and intentionality to align with the present moment. This dynamic demonstrates that mental clarity and focus often emerge from embodied action. When the body takes the lead, is invited to follow naturally, creating coherence between intention, perception, and movement. This alignment allows the system to operate efficiently, integrating sensation, action, and awareness without unnecessary tension or resistance. Celebration is a form of regulation because it engages the nervous system in ways that restore balance and reinforce positive states. When we celebrate, whether through movement, expression, or shared activity, the body experiences shifts in posture, breath, and energy that signal safety and enjoyment. These physiological cues influence the brain, reducing stress responses, stabilizing heart rate, promoting a sense of coherence between mind and body. The act of celebrating, clapping, cheering, moving rhythmically, or simply expressing joy creates predictable patterns and sensory feedback that the nervous system interprets as safe and rewarding. This feedback helps regulate arousal, focus, and emotional tone, allowing energy to flow freely rather than being trapped in tension or anxiety. Celebration activates pathways associated with pleasure and social connection, reinforcing engagement and participation. Embedding celebration into activity, the body and mind experience a natural recalibration. Emotional states stabilize, attention sharpens, and the nervous system shifts toward a regulated, responsive mode. Through this process, celebration becomes not just an expression of joy, but a tool for maintaining equilibrium and sustaining energy within the system.